Good evening. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in meetings by accessing the webcast at www.cityofclovis.com/agendas, providing written comments at same website. 3, participating by phone or coming to the City Council meeting. I will call this meeting to order, and the flag salute will be led by our Mayor Pro Tem, Lynn Ashburn. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Ashbeck. Here. Councilmember Bessinger.
Here.
Councilmember Monuto.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
And Mayor Flores.
And I'm here, mostly. First item of business is presentation introducing the new Salvation Army officer, Kayla Kim.
So close. Come on up. Kyla, yes.
I'm sorry for the mispronunciation.
I wanted to introduce our newest Salvation Army officer in the Clovis Corps, and this is Lieutenant Kyla Kim. I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, thank you for having me here. My name is Kyla Kim. If you can't remember that, think of Cobra Kai.
Hi.
I don't work for any airlines. I am with the Salvation Army. I have been assigned to the Corps, is what we call it, each unit, a Corps, and the previous officers at the administrative team is usually called officers, and the previous officers were Jenny and Kalani Onizuka Adams, and they have been reassigned to Bellevue, Washington, where it's way cooler than here. But I just came from sunny Arizona, so thank you for the cool weather. I am so excited to be here in Clovis. I have received such a warm welcome. I'm excited to be a part of the community here. It's such a close-knit family feeling. I can already feel it. And the one thing I know that, I don't know if you know anything about the Salvation Army, we're not just a thrift store. We don't just annoy you in front of the stores during Christmas. We try to do everything to, more than anything, is to meet a need that is not being met at the community level. Fun fact, the Salvation Army usually, before they go into any community, they will find a zip code that is the poorest in the neighborhood, and they will intentionally build a corps or start a unit in that zip code. So specifically, we say we have a bias towards the unmet needs of the community, usually the homeless and the transient community. And so I feel like there is a lot of things that are being done here, decisions, and with such a close-knit community, I hope that we could be a part of that puzzle and piece that's happening here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome.
I can say something.
Sure.
When I was with the police department, I worked very closely with the Salvation Army. You guys do great work. Welcome to Clovis, and hopefully we can partner on some good projects. We do have homeless issues and transient issues. Some of our apartment complexes have some poverty issues, so we're looking forward to working with you.
The last officers were kind of members of the Clovis Rotary. I'm a member, so I hope you've been invited to participate with Clovis Rotary, because, yeah, you host us, so welcome to Clovis. Next item is a presentation of proclamation recognizing the week of August 7th through 13th, 2022 as International Assistance Dog Week, and that proclamation will be read by Councilmember Bessinger.
Thank you, Jose. I have a proclamation declaring August 7th to 13th as International Assistance Dog Week. Whereas assistance dogs transform the lives of their human partners, with physical and mental disabilities. They serve as devoted companions, helpers, aides, best friends, and close family members. And whereas seizure alert response dogs alert or respond to medical conditions such as heart attack, stroke, diabetes, epilepsy, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and post-trauma stress and seizures. And whereas guide dogs assist people with vision loss, leading these individuals around physical obstacles and to destinations such as seating, crossing streets, entering or exiting doorways, elevators, stairwells, etc. And whereas hearing alert dogs alert people with a hearing loss to the presence of specific sounds, such as doorbells, telephones, crying babies, sirens, another person, buzzing timers or sensors, knocks at the door, as well as smoke, fire, and clock alarms. And whereas International Assistance Dog Week provides an opportunity for us to raise awareness of the selfless ways all types of assistance dogs assist individuals with mitigating their disability-related limitations, now therefore be it resolved that the Clovis City Council does hereby declare the week of August 7th through 13th, 2022 as International Assistance Dog Week, and witnessed and signed today by our Mayor Jose Flores. And I believe we have Ed and Aaron. I don't know if Aaron's going to say anything today, but Ed?
Thank you very much. Each year during the first week of August, International Assistance Dog Week is celebrated around the world. It's a time we celebrate the contributions of all the assistance dogs and educate everyone regarding the importance they present in our lives. This year, it runs from Sunday, August 7th through Saturday, August 13th, 2022. Both my assistance dog, Zern, who is standing next to me, and I look forward to participating as a team in this important event because we're proud of the assistance dog community here in Clovis and around the world. And this is the time each year that we recognize all the devoted, hardworking dogs helping individuals like myself mitigate our disability-related limitations. The goal of International Assistance Dog Week is to first recognize and honor all assistance dogs. Second, raise awareness and educate the public about assistance dogs. Third, honor puppy raisers and trainers. And fourth, recognize all the heroic deeds performed by assistance dogs in our communities. It's also important to remember that International Assistance Dog Week was originally established thanks to Marcy Davis, a paraplegic, over 45 years, the CEO of Davis Innovations, a consulting firm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, who founded this special event. We wish to thank Marcy. I'm very proud of this event and the fact that City of Clovis has been there to support us each and every year. And both Zern and my previous partners, Alipo and Charity, are very grateful for the efforts by the City of Clovis. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Can you come up here and so we can give you a proclamation?
While you're coming up, I want to congratulate you on naming your dog Zern instead of a name like Kevin, which is not an appropriate dog name.
It's a perfect dog.
Sir. You talked before. You're from New York, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a slight accent.
Sound that way in my voice.
Yeah, well, I'm from Jersey, you know.
That's gold. No, the golden. What is that? That's gold. Gold retriever? No. Yeah, that's right. It's gold.
Could he stay with us during the game for the meeting? Could he stay with us all day, all of tonight, just sit by us?
Could Zern just stay with us for the rest of the meeting, just to kind of comfort us all?
Aaron.
I'm gonna need comfort, and so I think that Zern should stay. Okay, fine, don't stay.
Next item are public comments. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, or 10 minutes per topic. And when wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic, should contact the City Manager's office and submit correspondence at least 10 days before the desired date of appearance. Marcus, are you coming up to speak? I saw him.
You're gonna do a sharp left turn, and the microphone is on. It's right in front of you.
Yeah, no PD.
How can you beat that? My gosh. I went to some of the training that the guide dogs offered me up in San Rafael. Unfortunately, my dog did not make the training. The dog chooses you, not the other way around. My dog was coming from a place where they breed him in upstate, it was in Oregon. I forgot where the name, but anyway, he passed some rigorous physical examinations, and then when we were going through the training, he just didn't make it. But that's not why I'm here. But how are you going to beat that? I mean, service dogs is number one campaign for blind people, you know, companionship, et cetera, et cetera. So kudos to those people and the trainers. My first name is Marcus. My reason for being here is that I have a specific 1 or 2 points that I need to bring up to the, and I have brought it up before, these 2 or 3 points that are inflicting a bad taste to the neighborhoods. And I'm talking about the bulk garbage days that are assigned to our neighborhood. And when these people in the neighborhood start bringing garbage and literally dumping it in front of somebody's house or in front of their house, it's not the garbage from the community, it's coming from elsewhere. I brought this to your attention and to your predecessors quite a few times, and I'm getting very sick and tired of it. You guys aren't doing nothing. As a matter of fact, you're sitting there and they say, yeah. You're not doing anything. Your officers that are assigned to report this, they need to be educated. When they see that the bulk garbage in front of a particular house has 5 sinks in it, 4 or 5, 6 water heaters, 2 or 3 sump coolers, they're not coming from that house. How stupid can these officers be? That's number one. Number two, your gun range that your predecessors and yourself permitted licensing is baloney. I have a decibel reader in the back of my house, and that guy, that individual, that businessman has not been in compliance since he opened business. And it will not be, and he won't abide by that. You got noise pollution that goes over the projected council meeting decibel level, sometimes over 100 decibels when it comes out of the firing range, when they have volleys in there. My gosh, it sounds like an attack, World War III. Number 4, I have another complaint with people are coming in to the neighborhood that are questionable. When I say questionable, they're pushing garbage truck, shopping carts full of garbage, dragging dead dogs behind them, et cetera, and by the time you report this, the officer that gets there, they're already gone. You need to exercise and educate these particular officers. I know that they're bogged down with a lot of other emergencies and stuff, but when it comes to this, because eventually it's going to get out of control, and when it gets out of control, and it's going to be too late. We should have, could have, and didn't. So that's my 3 points. I will be back again because you guys aren't doing anything to take care of these points. That's my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus.
Hey, Marcus, before you go, I've got a couple of clarifying questions, if you don't mind. Marcus?
My 5 minutes are up. You're very specific about that.
Yes, and so if the mayor allows, I'm going to go ahead and ask you some questions,
Right.
and then you can go ahead and answer some of those.
5 minutes, I'm cheating somebody out of their speech. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Marcus, when you had said that there were people who were pushing garbage through your community and dragging dead dogs, was that an exaggeration, or are they truly dragging dead dogs behind them?
Well, they're dragging something. I don't know. I can't see it, but I can hear it.
Okay.
It's either garbage cans, dogs, or they're dragging something.
Okay.
And you report it to the officials, and by the time they get there, this individual has already gone. He's doing, or they're doing something, he or him or whatever. They're doing something. You should be concerned about the bulk garbage where they're bringing the neighborhood, somebody's dumping garbage from outside of the community. That's my main point, and also the gun range. But you guys ain't going to address that because you're so, your predecessors already voted on it, and because he has a license to operate, but he has to renew that license. And I'm telling you, he has not been in compliance since he opened that business.
Okay.
Good day. Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
Do nothing, like usual.
Mayor, would you like me to give you an update?
What's that?
Would you like me to give you an update?
Go ahead.
So Marcus has become to city council for about 3 years now, and we have followed up, and we haven't been able to substantiate any of his claims. I drove the site this weekend to see his house and didn't see anything, and we just haven't been able to prove anything he's alleging.
I mean, there's no doubt that people drop trash in your neighborhoods. I think that, I just don't know how you would ever stop that. I mean, without totally stopping the community cleanup. I mean, it happens in I think it happens in all of our neighborhoods, so I think that's a challenge.
And many
I don't know how you solve for that.
And many of the scavengers actually collect some of the,
Yeah.
especially the metals and other
Yeah,
recyclables.
yeah.
So it's a two-way street, and I don't think we can please Mr. Marcus. Anyone else here in the public here wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Wish we could, though. Wish we could please them, but, and we're not the predecessors. We're actually the ones that voted for it. At least 3 of us are.
Look at me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique. I actually live right down the street from here. I've lived here pretty much all my life. I'm 34 years old, and I take care of my mom. And to be honest, she takes care of me as well. So I live with mental illness. I have bipolar disorder, and for many years I thought that the police weren't supportive, and this is the first time where I've felt that the police have been very supportive, and I was proven wrong. So, you know, every time that I've needed help, the police always give me the support I need. Throughout this last 2 weeks, I've been going through my own recovery with mental health and doing my daily activities, trying to maintain my mental health. and I walk my dog every day, and my dogs every day, and I am very grateful that you guys honor service dogs, but that's not the issue that I'm here for. I wanted to address the homelessness that is here. I've noticed that they do feel safe around City Hall, and they do feel safe around the library. I've fellowshipped with them, and I pray with them all the time, and their biggest concerns is, one, they want to work. A lot of them are not criminals. They may have a background, whether it is gambling or just wanting a home of their own. And I really, my concern and question is, how do we meet those needs here in Clovis? I've noticed the number of people in Clovis that are homeless coming into Clovis wanting more, but how do we give them that American dream still? I know that I've lived the American dream, and my parents have worked very hard as farmers, and we don't have the best house in town, but we're very blessed, and we're very faithful, and I do have faith that things will get better, but I do believe we need more resources for the homeless here. So my question to you guys is, what can we do to help the homeless population? One, I mean, if they're looking for jobs, they're going to need an address. They're going to need somewhere to get a paycheck or to have proof of housing. And two, a lot of them do have neurological issues, things that are concerning as far as their health that are stopping them. And there are things that work over at Poverello House, but we do see addiction there as well. That's an issue. And I'm not seeing addiction as an issue here in Clovis. I do see that they're happy, but when I speak to them, they're scared to tell me where they sleep. They're scared to tell me where they, they're happy to be here, but they feel safe. But my question is, how do we help them?
I can give you this answer. One thing the chaplaincy program at Clovis Police Department is doing is partnering with the faith community of Clovis. So several churches have made it their mission to assist those that seek assistance. Okay. So you might, if you befriended some of these people, tell them about the chaplaincy program. Okay. And because then they will get referred to a church that might adopt them and help them and find those resources. Okay. That's definitely, yeah, I'll take notes on that. Okay. The chaplaincy program. What's her name? May. Chaplain May? Is that her name? May? Chaplain May. Chaplain May. Okay. Thank you so much.
Can I just say, I was going to say, I would just go sit right, I think you two are meant to be in this space together tonight. I do think the Salvation Army could help.
Sure.
Yeah.
see, that's two resources, Salvation Army and the chaplaincy program.
And then I actually had another question as far as transportation, because a lot of them are here. Would you suggest that they just walk over there, or is there a way that they can be transported?
Transit's still free. Our transit system in Clovis is free.
Okay, I will definitely let them know that then. Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, Dominique, thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for being open about your recovery and your mental health journey.
Thank you.
And you were super impressive, and most people don't want to come here ever. And so to come and talk about something so personal, and then the work that you're doing to help others is really awesome to see. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Anyone else with a public comment? Anything not on the agenda here in our chambers? See no one else? Anyone on the web? Okay, we'll move on. Ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance, and unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading of the resolution or ordinance shall be deemed waived by unanimous consent of the council. Next items are consent calendar items. Considered routine in nature, are to be placed upon the consent calendar. They will all be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless a council member requests individual consideration. A council member's vote in favor of the consent calendar is considered and recorded as a separate affirmative vote in favor of each action listed. Motions in favor of adoption of the consent calendar are deemed to include a motion to waive the reading of any ordinance or resolution on the consent calendar. For adoption of the ordinance, only those that have received a unanimous vote upon introduction are considered consent items. Does any member of the council want to remove any item from the consent calendar?
I had a question on number 18. This is supporting the Measure C Renewal Expenditure Plan. So I think just on that one, I'm going to, as I had mentioned last time that we had a meeting together, that
abstain?
With the, Judicial Canon 5, I probably ought to abstain from that.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone in the public wishing to remove something or pull it for special consideration, any item on the consent calendar? No one here? On the web?
No.
Okay, so I'll bring it back.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar items with, should I do with the exception of number 18, with the exception of item number 18?
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So it's 5-0.
And then I'll make a motion, can we just make a motion without a staff report on the consent? Item 18 doesn't need a staff report or any comment?
No, if you're willing to make the motion based on.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve item 18, supporting the Measure C Renewal Expenditure Plan.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The vote is 4 ayes, 1 abstention, and no noes. Thank you. Public hearing. A public hearing is an open consideration within a regular or special meeting of the City Council for which special notice has been given and may be required. When a public hearing is continued, notice of the adjourned item is required as per Government Code 54,955.1. Today's item 20, consider approval of items associated with a quadrant intersection along the Herndon Avenue corridor. A is consider approval of a resolution, the elimination of the implementation of the proposed quadrant intersection, Herndon Avenue and Willow and Peach, and B, consider introduction of ordinance amending various sections of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to the quadrant intersection development fee, and our staff member is Ryan Burnett.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So in 2000, a regional traffic study was prepared for the Fresno Council of Governments for Herndon Avenue from State Route 99 to Academy. The goal was to maintain an efficient east-west corridor to the Fresno-Clovis metropolitan area. A major recommendation in that 2000 study were quadrant intersections. That was to mitigate for the future traffic impacts. There was 4 quadrant intersections recommended in the city of Fresno, and there was 3 in the city of Clovis. And those were Willow and Herndon, Peach and Herndon, and Clovis and Herndon. Further analysis eliminated the Clovis and Herndon intersection. So what is a quadrant intersection? Quadrant intersection eliminates left turn lane or left turn phasing and major intersections to allow through traffic additional time. The left turns are moved to side streets and their intersections. So in July 2001, Council approved a general plan and specific plan amendment to allow the quadrant intersections. The action didn't require them, but allowed them to be implemented. And that was at Herndon and Willow and Peach and Willow. The quadrant intersections are currently not fully implemented. The city of Fresno didn't implement any of the quad intersections that were recommended in that 2000 study in their jurisdiction. And Fresno currently supports Clovis eliminating the quadrant intersections. Now, to get an idea of how these quadrant intersections work, we have some slides here. So if you wanted to go northbound, Willow from Herndon, you would have to take the route that's shown there to Helm and Spruce, which works as a bypass. So you have to go through the intersection where there is no left turns, make the left at Helm, and go up and go north on Willow. If you wanted to go eastbound, you'd have to go through the intersection, through the bypass, down to Herndon, and then go westbound on Herndon. If you want to go eastbound from southbound Willow, you have to take the bypass before you get to the Willow and Herndon intersection.
Somewhat. I actually did.
Are you saying this is what it was intended to do, or this is what it does?
This is, if they were fully functional, this is how it would work.
So this does, because it doesn't, you can go north on Willow all the way
Correct.
to Village of Lake.
This is if the left turn lanes were eliminated as planned.
Okay, so I see. So you're saying this was hypothetically it was supposed to do?
Yes, correct.
Sorry, thank you.
Correct, and the Spruce and Helm Street behind the shopping center there, that was built for the bypass, for the quadrant intersection. So if you want to go southbound Willow, and you're coming westbound, you have to take that same bypass, go up and around and down and south on Willow. So you're kind of getting the idea. The same thing at Peach and Herndon. If you want to go north on Peach, you're going eastbound on Herndon. You have to take the old Peach and go south and back up around and go north on the Peach couplet there. So if you want to go eastbound on Herndon, you'd have to take the old Peach alignment there up and over, because the left turn lanes would be eliminated at this intersection.
Ryan, we're laughing because we wonder why this ever seemed like a good idea, because it's just like a really bad idea right now. And as Joe was the only one here, it's really his fault. Yeah. I said, no, wait, I wasn't here yet, so it's really yours. Good luck with that.
It made sense at the
It looks really bad though with red arrows. Like it's better if we don't see the arrows.
The goal was to protect traffic going east and west on Herndon, and it hasn't really.
How'd the fire department ever let that be a good idea?
They could do all kinds of
Don't answer that.
So you kind of get the idea. It causes a lot more out of your way travel to get where you're going, and so let's see, go here. So staff, really reevaluated the implementation of the quad intersections and had a new analysis prepared by Peters Engineering. And the study did find that the traffic, in theory, the traffic is improved with the quad intersections, the through traffic. However, there are numerous downsides. So, there's driver confusion. It's not intuitive. There's lots of signage that would have to be installed. There are very few of these built in the United States, none that staff knows of that's built in California. And they're, potentially complicated and confusing. It substantially increases vehicle miles traveled, so up to 11,000 miles per day by 2042, which in today's standards of CEQA could be considered a significant impact. The traffic impacts are just shifted to the side streets with this quadrant intersection idea. There'll be substantial queues no matter with or without the quads. So there's going to be, eventually be, pretty long queues along the Herndon Avenue corridor. The cost. So there are cheaper and better alternatives now to traffic management, such as adaptive signal technology. And staff has secured federal funding to install it throughout the Herndon corridor, the adaptive. And the adaptive is newer technology that allows signals throughout the corridor to communicate and adjust based on real-time traffic conditions. So that'll help a lot. The city of Fresno is implementing adaptive in quite a few areas, and I believe they have it on their side of Herndon. So there's also a development fee that's associated with the implementation of the quadrant intersections, and so the quadrants haven't been fully implemented. The fees are reimbursing the original developer of the Clovis Common Shopping Center, that's Regency. There's no need for the fee if the quadrant intersections are eliminated, and an ordinance amendment to eliminate the fee is part of this request. If approved, the remaining fees will be dispersed as appropriate. So the recommendations, the Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval of the resolution eliminating the quad intersections, and staff is also recommending the approval of the ordinance amendment eliminating the development fee. That concludes staff's report, and staff is available for questions.
Questions for?
Ryan, can you go back one slide, please? Yep. Oh, well, now 2 slides. Okay. No, I want you to go. No, the other way.
This slide.
One more? Thank you. Hold on for a second. Okay. That number, I guess that bullet point number 2, fees are reimbursing the developer of the Clovis Commons Shopping Center. I just wanted, that's kind of what was going through my mind, is that we probably required them to implement this quadrant section, and it seems unfair because, no one ever followed through. And I don't know if that was a significant cost to them to go in that direction, or if we still would have probably had something along those lines there. So do we have an idea of how much that's going to be as far as that reimbursement?
Yeah, the Regency originally spent about $1.3 million on improvements, but most of those improvements can be used still today. It's not because of they're not implemented. The total paid to Regency to date is about a little over $1 million.
Okay.
So that's about $800,000 in principal, and then there's interest of about $250,000.
Okay. All right. So we're taking care of them in the sense that we implemented something that nobody else had to implement, but we kind of forced them to implement. Is that right?
We did. And they've been paid, quite a bit of their money has been paid back. But
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And they normally would have been paid back money for this type of street and landscaping development?
Yeah.
Or,
Fair
okay.
share.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that we're being square with Clovis Commons.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anyone else?
I just have one question. I think what's happened, I want to, for the record, I had a brief lapse. I was on the council. Sorry. Bad idea. Yeah, bad idea. Huh? Oh, I was thinking the election was in the November. How quickly I forgot. No, so yeah, sorry. It seemed like a good idea. We've never fully implemented it, though. Why? We had some of the infrastructure, the Spruce Helm piece. Did we stop collecting enough fees? Did it just not seem that important?
I think it was timing. It just, the traffic, didn't, warrant it yet. So, and if Mike wants to add something to that.
2 quarters.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, Ryan's got it right. We had Target put in the bypass that Ryan described. That was their expense, and some of the traffic signal improvements that are on Herndon there and are on Willow Avenue. So that represented the $1.3 million. So it's ready to go when the traffic says it is, and when we have the appetite to put something like that in place. With the changes in the VMT laws and all of that, it's been 20 years. When it was first put into place, the traffic engineer was predicting that it would be less than 10 years before we actually needed it. As you recall, Herndon was the major east-west corridor. We didn't have Nees, we didn't have Shepherd, we didn't have any of those going east and west. So the landscape has changed as well. So
John Wright was a very active champion. I mean, and it did make sense when you were trying to relieve the pressure on Herndon, but I feel like that ship sailed. People haven't been as kind of devoted in not letting access along Herndon up and down. So anyway, I was just going to comment, the Spruce and Helm intersection now, so that on the curve there, now there's all that housing back there. I wonder if something, I mean, if your thoughts on the capacity of, I think that's right. Oh no, Spruce and what's the street that's coming off?
It's Helm.
Oh, that's okay.
And that's Spruce, yes.
So I mean, I don't know if the dynamic has shifted there at all, but all those apartments, I think, or I'm not sure if they're condos, I can't remember, but all that building in there has changed the nature of that street. So I don't know if there's any, and then trying to make that left turn and then make a quick right into the shopping center is a little harrowing at times. So it just may be that intersection now has, that intersection shifted in the...
Yeah, we have to think about what we're going to do in the future with that. Yeah. By allowing left turns with the elimination of the quad at Herndon Avenue, we can release some of that traffic, but that's just a short-term thing. We're going to have to figure out what to do there. One of the suggestions recently was to put a roundabout there. That would require participation by the owner of the Target Shopping Center, who is Painter Development, and it requires some funding. We have considered it for some of the grant funding, so we're going to continue to look at that. It definitely needs to be fixed.
Drew? We're looking at this through our 2022 eyes, but this is not an unusual engineering thing on the East Coast. They call them clover leaves or jug handles. They're specifically in my home state of New Jersey, very, very, very common. I know it's on an agendized item, but you already have a no and a roundabout from me. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there was supposed to be another one on the Fresno side, and that never came to fruition. And it basically hasn't really developed much on that side, even to this day.
Right. Fresno never implemented it. Certainly when you have two sides working together, it makes it a lot better. It can work with just the one jug handle, but it's, as Ryan described, it's going to add a lot more VMT.
And wasn't it supposed to also be on the south side?
No.
No?
It didn't have to be.
Yeah. It was just the north?
Yeah.
East and west?
Yeah.
But Fresno side, it never developed. And we've also had very little development until recently, just adjacent to that, to our Clovis side.
Right.
On Herndon. So yeah, that's why I think time was the worst enemy, and then now there's alternatives to Herndon that were never used before. But it did make sense because I was familiar with this kind of circulation in larger cities, and it makes sense. And but we were way ahead of our times, and it didn't come to fruition.
Mayor, if I could add, in Andy's absence, the elimination of the Quadrant Intersection will make this property here that has not developed much more marketable because of the ability to do different access points.
Okay. And what happens to Helm? Does it ever get opened up to a left turn from Herndon going east? Right there. So,
Yeah,
left turn out.
it would be our intent, and part of the study that was done is to evaluate what that would look like, is to include the left turn there to relieve some of that traffic going in and out of that shopping center area.
Yeah, because I was at that shopping center today like 3 times, and it is harrowing, that intersection. It is like, you better do it fast because you're going to get hit. I wonder what the police department shows as accidents there. I would imagine that there's got to be several.
There must, I haven't looked at it, but I imagine there are some, yes.
Yeah, okay. Any more questions from council? I'll open it to the public. Anyone here in our chamber wishing to comment on this item? I see none on the web?
No.
Okay, I'll bring it back.
I just would like to make the motion to undo my vote of 2001. I'll feel much better. I'll be able to sleep tonight. It was a good idea in 2001. I will make a motion that we eliminate the implementation of the proposed quadrant intersections at Herndon Avenue with Willow and Peach Avenues. Can I make both of them in the same motion? And amending various sections of the municipal code relating to the development fee.
Have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So it's unanimous, 5 ayes, no noes. Administrative items are matters of the regular city council agenda other than public hearings. Item 21, consider approval of a resolution adopting the Clovis Fire Department's Master Service Plan. Chief John Penancy.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I've been advised to make this brief because apparently I'm getting a reputation that I speak long. So I will do my best. There's a lot to cover, but we will get through it. It's only, an inch worth of paper, but we'll get through it. So, again, thank you for this opportunity to speak and talk about the fire department and our master guiding documents. So our main goal here is obviously prevent harm, be professional, and use our resources wisely. That's kind of our simple mission statement for the fire department that we kind of live and make our decisions by. So a little bit on the fire department history. 1912 was the first ordinance that was passed that enabled the beginning establishment of the Clovis Fire Department. It enabled us to purchase the first kind of pole behind the horse and bucket brigade, and then in 1917 we actually had our first volunteers, and that's what we say is our true establishment of the Clovis Fire Department. Then in 1966 we had 5 career firefighters and a fire chief, and today we have 73 personnel, 67 sworn and 6 non-sworn personnel in fire prevention administration and logistics. So, a little over 60 years, we've come a long way from the original 5. So what are our master planning or our guiding documents? It's really what we use through part of accreditation. Our accreditation requires the jurisdiction having authority to see these documents and adopt them. The first one is our community risk assessment and standard of cover, and that's this document here. And really what this is designed to do is to look at our community, look at our assets at risk, and then right-size our response to each type of risk. So a good example of this is we have 4 levels for a structure fire or a fire call. We have like a trash can fire, a vehicle fire, that's 1 engine. We then have a single-family residence, which is 16 firefighters. We then have a moderate, which would be kind of a smaller, triplex, things along those lines, which then would receive 19 firefighters. And then we have a high, like the hospital, large apartments, large commercial occupancies, that would be 21 firefighters. And that's all in this as we look at their critical task, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But that's what we're looking for is what's our assets at risk, what are we assigned to each type of calls, and making sure we have the right amount. We don't want to send a whole bunch of extra vehicles, code 3, because that's just putting the public at risk, and we want to make sure we've got the right size for the right type of emergency. We then have our strategic plan, which is basically asking our external and internal stakeholders what they want to see out of the fire department, what their expectations are, and then it establishes our goals. We then have our annual report, which I just brought to the City Council in April, and then we have our emergency operation plan for any large type of emergency within this city. We used it in the beginning of COVID. We've made changes to it from COVID and our continuing operation plan and things along those lines. But the goal of these documents is to assess the performance and with a goal of continuous improvement of the departments. So strategic plan, basically we've had a strategic plan for years. Our goal here was to reaffirm what we're doing, modify the community expectations. Like I said, it started with internal, external stakeholders. We reviewed our past performance and response benchmarks for validation. We developed our short-range and long-term goals, and then we completed our SWOT. We can't use threats anymore. We have to use challenges. So, all names change here. And so we completed our SWOT of what we're doing and what people want to say. And basically, a lot of our goals is how we benchmark ourselves to see where we are. Where's our budget per capita and stuff compared to other like-sized communities? Where's our response back from cardiac arrest? What percentage is that? Things we want to do with ISO and maintain those. So these are all our benchmark goals for the next 5 years that we want to do. Then we kind of go to our standard of cover. Like I said, we look at the risk. We perform a risk assessment of all occupancies within the city. We then geocode these by address once we've identified them. So through our dispatch, they're able to send the right amount of people to the right type of call. We do a critical task analysis, and then we look for areas of improvement. So every major risk in the community gets an assignment of a score from low, moderate to high, and then that's how we look at it. And it looks a lot of things about what's the fire prevention systems there. Do they have sprinklers, fire alarms, people there 24 hours a day? What's the water demand? Do we have the proper water there? What's the value? Like, well, you can use the one that just recently happened in San Jose, the unfortunate loss of a Home Depot. They employed over 100 employees. A lot of those people lived in the community. They were one of the larger sales tax generators for the community, and they estimate it won't be rebuilt for somewhere between 24 and 36 months. So think of the economic loss just to sales tax and some of those things. So we look at that economic impact both to the community and more directly to city government. And then we basically rate them. So you see here, basically Station 1, Station 2 has our highest assets at risks. As we go into Station 5, and the very little one it barely shows on there is what's at there at 6. Most of those items at 6 at the very bottom. We only have 5 occupancies out there right now, which is the Starbucks and some of those pieces, and then we'll finally rate the first apartment once it's done out there, but most of that is single-family, moderate risk that we have out there right now in Station 6, and same with Station 5's area is predominantly all residential. But we look at that, we look at those assets at risk, and then we rate them. And the first thing that we look at for our measurement and ways that we kind of see how this system works is we could use where we are on time measurements for calls. So call gets received 911, it enters into Clovis PD, they start the call processing, they ship it to our secondary PSAP, which is EMS Communications. They then alert us. We then have our 4 minutes of travel time, and that's how we get to 6 minutes and 30 seconds. For a structure fire, basically the same principle, but it was 7 minutes. Council and them wasn't too happy when we were showing 1:40 for our call processing time, so we've worked with PD, and at the end of the month, we should have it all up and running. So what's happened now, back in the old days, you picked up your hard line, all the stuff came on the computer-aided dispatch screen. It told you even like it was a pay phone by the gym at the southwest corner of Clovis High. Well, now we just kind of get a Latin long based on the cell phone ability. So normally the first thing the dispatcher does is has to confirm a street location for it, make sure it's geocoded right, who's the name on the other end, and some of this thing. Well, when they gather that data, they put it into their computer-aided dispatch software. But then when they ship the call over to the secondary PSAP, what winds up happening there is the first 10, 12 seconds is almost an exact repeat because they don't have that information. So we're establishing that we funded through last fiscal year is what they call a CAD-to-CAD interface. So we're hoping to eliminate 12 to 15 seconds of that repeat questioning, especially I know even when I call for a customer service and I get transferred to the next one and I get asked the same questions again, it's got to be 10 times worse on an emergency, like, hey, wait a minute, I just answered those exact same questions. What's the problem? Why do I have to do it again? So it's just a good example where we saw it. The numbers started to get longer and longer. We looked for ways to solve that, and that's kind of what this whole process is how do we continuously look at our performance and how do we find technologies or other ways to reduce that response time lag and without incurring a lot of additional cost. As you can see where we are at the first time up there on the yellow, almost to orange for our response time. We've got a lot of area to cover. The city has grown. We should see better improvements of that when Station 6 is open. Our ERF looks good, but we're definitely some of the performance we have. We do look at the streets in the right way. They're grid formatted. We try to hold that to future developments. We have every intersection that has opticoms on it. So we try to use technology and anything we can do to expedite our response, because seconds and minutes do matter on the growth of fire and your ability to get chest compressions or to have your stroke or heart attack within an hour to the appropriate hospital. We'd love to see, but it's actually financially impossible, that entire map to be green. That is our benchmark ultimate goal, but it's just not financially feasibly possible to do that. We do see a lot more purple down there kind of in the southeast, and until Owens Mountains goes through, and the way we learn from our, just like the quad corners, we seem to always learn from our past mistakes. Harlan Ranch is laid out kind of pretty looking. It's absolutely terrible for emergency response and how you got to get through the neighborhood, the gates, and just the drive with the big center medians and stuff, parking on both sides. It really just is not made for a relatively fast response. And that's why, you know, you look at it, it's right there. It should be a hop, skip, and a throw from Station 5 in there, and the time performance is there. Just because we have to go up to Shepherd, we make the right turn, then you got to come down. Part of the way that we have to get in, you can't get in if you're going southbound to Wolf, so you got to go down to the next intersection. There's just things, so we sit here and work really hard with engineering. We're really trying to make sure that we have those routes to speed our way in, our good 2 points of access. We're not using EVAs or things along those lines anymore. So we're really trying to improve those, so again, keeps costs down if we do good grid street layers. And that's why the center core that you see is the best performance, because the center core is quarter sections with streets, arterials around the outside, and good entrances on the inside. We're trying to reproduce that day in and day out for our new growth. This is where our call volume was. We've had a steady growth, but still pretty good, about 10,000 to a little bit under 11,000. But if we were to be the same department we were in 2006, we would have to run to 17,000 calls a year, and that's just not feasible for where we are in the time and not having us available for those high-risk calls. So every year we reevaluate through our standard of cover, the types of calls we go to, and we start to go to less and less of those calls, and we're only going to high-acuity calls, those Code 3 calls, those fire calls, those chest pains, motor vehicle accidents, strokes, seizures, things along those lines. Those, my foot hurts, low acuity, abdominal pain you've had for 4 days, those now just get an ambulance response, and fire doesn't respond to those anymore, based on a very good study through UC Merced on the level of treatment those patients require, not only in the field but the hospital. They looked at 380,000 patients. So it's a pretty good study that's been used by multiple departments in determining that. So we kind of keep just looking at where we want to go to keep that happy medium. Here's Station 6. We anticipate it'll run about 900 calls, since it is a predominantly residential community out there. We've noticed that the calls out there for right now from Station 4 that goes out there is their call volume is kind of the polar opposite of what other stations are. It's mostly night, so it's after 5 p.m. till about 7 a.m. compared to what you'd see at Station 1 or 2 at some of those places for it being daytime. We do have good news. We have a certificate of occupancy today. We will move the crew in there at 8 a.m. on September 8th. We're putting our stuff in there right now as we speak and get it all done. And I'm looking for some feedback. We're hoping to do an open house from basically, we'll do a ribbon cutting at 9, have council the opportunity to speak, and then we'll have an open house for an hour and a half or so after that on September 10th, if that works out with everybody. So that's the date we're looking at for the official ribbon cutting of Station 6. And if you don't like that date, please let me know, and I will do my best to change it. So, but we're extremely happy to be moving in that station. It's been a long time coming, and it's beautiful out there. It'll be really nice. And the park, we anticipate starting work for the Village Green just to the south. We figure it'll start the week right before, so it'll be nice and dusty out there, and I'm doing all the work. So we picked a great day. But where we look at, so basically like we talked about, we look at our critical tasks, like I was talking about, things we have to do. We have to have people on the hose line for fire attack, people look inside for victims, for ventilation to remove the smoke. We need to, by Calolisha rules, we have to have a backup line with 2 people on it. We have to have somebody operate the pump, water supply. So it basically comes in this long thing that tells you this is how many people we need for a moderate fire. It's 16 people. We then go out and test it. We train with it. We validate it to make sure it's all validated. And then we have this like little graph that shows what every person's responsibility is. We then have to do the same for EMS. So our low acuity calls, we just respond the ambulance with an EMT and a paramedic. And nowadays it could be just 2 EMTs if it's a very low acuity call. Then for a moderate, you get the fire engine in the ambulance. And then for like a pin-in, multiple patients, then you get the larger one at the bottom with more resources from the ambulance and the fire for like an MCI, school event, things along those lines. And that's how we rate our EMS critical tasks. We also do it for USAR, urban search and rescue, and for hazardous materials. As you can see, our growth of where we are, population has increased. We were 68 sworn in 2009. We're back to 67, so we're still 1 short. That's basically the deputy chief position. We used to have 2 deputy chiefs that were sworn. We only have 1 today, so that's the difference. But we had 2 crews back in 2008 out of Station 2, where we haven't had 2 crews since 2008 out of Station 2. So that's why you see the influx of where we went back to 67, but that was basically the crews that when we had 2 out of Station 2 that went away during the recession. You saw in April of this year, you had our annual report. What the standard cover does is our annual report is a snapshot of 1 year. Our standard cover is 5 years as a requirement for accreditation. It talks about our needs assessment for our facilities, our future needs for fleets and facilities, and then what we did in training and operations. We also here have updated our emergency plan. We definitely showed the value of it with COVID. We made a continuity of operations plan for each department when COVID struck, how we were going to level that, make it so the departments would stay operational and working. We have a EOC exercise plan for 2003, and we're reestablishing and reinvesting back into our CERT program. Most of those people were seniors. COVID came along. It was at risk for them. We're reaching out to them, seeing who wants to still be involved. We'll have a class later this year, and we're reinvesting back in our CERT program. So, again, we've done a lot of things here in the last year. We have some challenges still for the future, but realistically, this is our guiding documents that we use to plan what we send to each type of emergency, how we monitor our performance, and in turn, what is the expectations of our internal, external stakeholders. And as part of the accreditation process, I need to make sure that the City Council has seen these documents. And I'm available for questions.
Questions for Chief Penancy? Bob?
Thank you. I like your reports. I think that they give a lot of information, and it communicates it effectively. And there are times, though, when I don't understand everything, and so I have one of those moments.
No problem. We use a lot of acronyms and a lot of short things, abbreviations, so no one knows what we're talking about. It's like 10 codes in PD.
Under the standards of cover, the EMS risk assessment, I wish I could point you to a particular page, but I don't have a page number.
No problem.
It says the probability consequences of EMS risk under that particular heading. There's a triangular-like diagram which talks about cardiac arrest, odds of survivability, then brain cell death.
Correct.
And then
this is what you're looking at, correct?
That is it, yes.
Got it.
So there's a point of discovery, and then there's a 0 marker. And so during that time, that 0 to negative whatever that figure is, I'm going to presume it's -1, but I don't know if that's what it's supposed to reflect. is that when, somebody actually learns of it and then calls 911, or is that just a way of diagramming what is just unknown, because that discovery is never really known?
You pretty much nailed it, Ted. We really follow or look at the time frames and stuff because this obviously shows, and fire has basically the same principle to it. But we only know when the clock starts when the person dials 911. We actually know it all the way down to the first ring into dispatch. We know when the dispatcher picks it up. We even know the first keystroke that the dispatcher does. We just don't know. We know that it takes time normally for someone to discover the emergency. Sometimes people are unfortunately passing their sleep. How long were they down?
Yeah.
Even if they're witnessed, even witness fires, we seem to have a lot of people that do this with their phone, and no one's dialing the 3-digit number to get someone to start. So it's really just saying we know there's a discovery phase. We just can't measure that to anything to determine the life-saving times of where they are.
Okay.
And that's really what that's saying.
Well, then, understanding that, it appears as though the clock starts between that point between discovery and dispatch.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And then we go 6 minutes from that point, and we're saying first Clovis unit on scene at 6 minutes is the adopted standard. And you have a diagram which vaguely describes how there's an increase in brain cell death or survivability in the table, which is below that graph below, which is kind of the more standard XY kind of graph. So when I see that it says first Clovis unit on scene at 6 minutes is the adopted standard, and then I see that we're at 7:01.
Correct.
Are we? So I guess I'm unclear as to what it is that our adopted standard is. Is it the 6 minutes or is it the 7 minutes? Because I thought that we had talked about how it was 7 minutes.
7s is basically what our performance is.
Okay.
So we always have a benchmark that's better than our performance. So part of the accreditation model is, let's say we are at 6. We'd want to move that to 5:30. So we should always be achieving for something better.
Okay.
So that's part of the model that we follow is continuous improvement. Even no matter how well you're doing today, you should try to do better.
Okay.
We're at 7:07. And you also remember that this is not an average. So we benchmark at 90th percentile. So unlike a flip of the coin, we want to make sure that we meet that time standard.
Okay.
And that's where we are. We think we should get better. We're well within 2 standard deviations, and that's what we look at. Are we within 2 standard deviations?
Good. And I appreciate you explaining it to me that way, because there's a part of me that always, because I was always used to the 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
It was 5 minutes for fire because you have that, flash over or whatever, and then 5 minutes for, until you can kind of really start to have some significant degradation in the brain as a result of suffering a cardiac arrest. And so when we shifted to the higher standard, higher standard in the sense of lower standard because it's more time, I was thinking, okay, well, what are we doing here? Why are we going in that direction? Are we just trying to get to the point where we know what we can do, and so we're going to set our standard at what we can do, as opposed to setting our standard at what should be done? And so what you've communicated to me just now is that, even though it is at that 7 minutes, we're trying to do better. We're trying to get to that 6 minutes. We're just not there.
And let me remind you on the 5. The 5 is still in that same system. So basically, if you took dispatch out and you looked at that turnout and the response, that 5 minutes, that's what we used to measure. We never used to measure dispatch. So we really haven't changed a lot of what we're doing. We've just added, hey, we should really measure
Which is
how
a more
well
truthful or accurate kind of.
Exactly.
Okay, but so
if you used it before, we'd be 6 minutes too. We just never measured it. Right. When you talk to 5.
So ideally, I think ideally we would want to be able to get to 5 minutes, which would on this graph be more like, I guess it would be 5
plus
minutes.
1 is where we were before.
Well, I get that, but the standard, I guess the question then is it true, does flashover generally occur within 5 minutes, and is it true that the degradation of the brain cells when you're not breathing is significantly increased once you go past 5 minutes? And if that's true, then why wouldn't we try to target then, which I guess would be 4 minutes? Or are we just saying because discovery is an unknown, we just, you know, we're doing the best that we can with the amount of resources we have, or?
It's a little bit of everything you said. So one of the things we're doing, we just bought 2 of them. They're on order. Good, effective CPR is one of the life-saving ways. So that starts right off with what we look at dispatch and why we're in EMS communications for our dispatch, is they provide pro QA. So they ask questions, and they'll help the person on the phone do bystander CPR. So your odds of survivability from a cardiac arrest almost triple if someone does bystander CPR on you. So hopefully, if you have an event, someone's around that likes you.
Call 911, you're getting enough.
And it doesn't even have to be mouth-to-mouth, it's just the chest compressions that keep the heart pumping. And then you have to the staying alive rhythm. Well, what we've purchased now, we've got the training on them, we have a loaner unit in place, and we've had actually 2 good uses of it already, is a automatic chest compression device, which everybody, as you do CPR, gets tired. We do what we call pick-through CPR, so you change positions. This automatically does it. It's battery-operated, and away it goes, and it performs it perfectly every single time. It's got a computer in it to make sure it's the right depth. Everything's perfect. So those are some of the advances that get you better opportunity the farther out you are of where you are on that scale. And we even exceed this now, so when we, through the last EOA with American Ambulance, and where they're posted now at the corner of DeWolf and Shaw, they're now at the 90th percentile at just about a little, it was below before COVID. They've had some staffing issues, obviously, people out, just like all the hospitals are a little bit above. So we see ALS at 90% in 9 minutes even. So it's better than what we see at the 10. So we're constantly trying to find ways to make things better. Okay. But to get to where you'd want to go, the only way to get that is more units, and more units cost money. There isn't anything more technologically that I could do with road grids or Opticoms, machines, CAD-to-CAD dispatch. There isn't anything else that I really have up my bag of tricks to trim that number down anyway, other than to get more units.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I also like the report, so just wanted to let you know, thank you for a very thorough report. I had one question with regards to, with the new homes, they all have fire sprinklers. So is that ever taken into account with regards to response time? Because you may not need to respond to a fire because the sprinklers may already be going on. Does that ever play into a role? Should we not even look at that and just stick with us getting there?
Well, it's twofold. So let me tell you, we just had one the other day. So here's the good and the bad of residential sprinklers. So it's what they call a 13R program. So the R is for residential, single family. So and really the intended goal of that is for the occupants to escape. It isn't like what you see in a commercial building, which is then turned to keep the building occupiable, be able to reopen the Home Depot right away and be able to make your business run. So there is no, bless you, there's no sprinklers in the attic. So you only see them in the actual down portion of occupied space. They've been extremely effective in reducing the amount of garage fires. We had one 2-3 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, 4th of July. So it's 4th of July, individual brought the Save and Sane fireworks in a 5-gallon bucket into his garage, and it caught fire. Sprinkler had put it out at like 11 o'clock, and in turn they were able to go back in, some damage to the car from the, a little bit of the soot and stuff, but no one was displaced from that home. We had another one of a person who picked up a brand new electric vehicle, thought it was a good idea to use a really small electric cord and plug it into, because he didn't reach into the wall. Needless to say, an electric vehicle to charge draws a lot of amps, and he burned up the electric cord and caused a fire next to his water heater put out by sprinklers. Very, very effective, and I can probably give you another 10 examples of that over the years of garage fires that would have been significant loss by the time we got there, and in turn those residents are able to go back in their house and spend the night in their house, which is tremendous. I can also give you 4 or 5 of the totes on the side of the house or the fence fire that comes up to the vents on the side, the E vent, and runs the attic. It's the catch-22. But what it does for us on this one, so we go back to the 4th of July one, we send that initial response 16 people because it was single-family residence. The first unit got there, kept the second unit, everybody else got freed up, and right at that exact same time, we had another structure fire at Bullard and 168 over there at those apartments. So it freed up those resources along with us at our auto aid with Fresno, getting a Fresno unit, and we were able to send 19 people to that fire and put that out. So that's kind of the trade-off of where we are. We still send the full assignment, but we're able to cancel them even if we do see the fire with the sprinklers. And that company, that first two company, got rid of the smoke in the garage, squeezed out the water, changed out the sprinkler head, got the sprinkler system back operational, so it protected the home for the rest of the day, night, and that's where they were. That kind of answer your question?
I guess I want to know, for example, the ones that says fire, we're sort of above. Shouldn't it be given a little leeway, because if it's a fire structure that, because there are sprinklers that say it's in Harlan Ranch, we may not be able to get it on time, but because of the sprinklers that are required, getting there is still acceptable?
It was, and then we had a garage fire that the person worked on the garage and the fuel tank in Harlan Ranch, and it overpowered the sprinkler system, and it was in the Leo Wilson ones there at the corner. So it's kind of a trade-off of where they are. I can give you a lot of good, and I can tell you ones that the system isn't designed to put out a large volume fire or an attic fire.
And in the reporting, do you ever report, for example, we only hear if a life is lost, but all the lives you saved, all the property you saved, you put in here the amount of dollars that were damaged, but the work that you have done, our departments have done, you must have saved millions. You must have saved a lot of lives, and so I think that somehow gets overlooked, and we need to somehow acknowledge that.
We try to make everything I do outcome-based, and it's hard to make an outcome of what-ifs. So let's use fire prevention as a good example of it. We have 2 people in our prevention department. It's actually shrunk from 3 to 2, so we only have 2 people in it. It's us going around and inspecting all the businesses within the city of Clovis within 2 years, and all of those correction violations and things we pick. How many businesses did we save from a fire? How many people did we save from a fire? It's hard to quantify that. Number's the problem. It's hard to quantify. Some departments have tried. They do the value saved, but where do you consider that? Did the neighbor's house not burn? Where does it end? So they'll put a large number to it. So we're really trying to use ones that we can truly validate and repeat year after year, and that's where we are. That's why we look at return to spontaneous circulation from cardiac arrest, the amount of people that get to a stroke or a cardiac center within the hour window. We really look at those outcomes and things that I can repetitively measure year in and year out accurately.
Well, thank you. Excellent report again, Chief.
Any more questions or comments? I'll open it to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on the Chief's report? Okay, no one on the web?
No.
Okay. So I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the Clovis Fire Department Master Services Plan. And yes, I thought it was a good report too.
Thank you.
Still a little peer pressure.
We try our best, but I'll be honest, it's the wonderful lady in the back, my management analyst, Katie Cron, who puts it all together, makes it look all pretty and stuff. Chad Fitzgerald does all the data on the inside of it, so I just kind of give the overview, but I can take the credit for it.
Well done.
But it's really my staff that puts it all together and does a great job.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm just the face.
I just second the motion and the compliment.
Thank you.
Yes. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So it passes. Any noes? No. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, consider approval of a resolution adopting amendments to the executive management salary schedule, and our general service director is Shauna Haldeman presenting.
Good evening. Recently, we have had some adjustments in salaries across the board related to our negotiations and salary survey, and they have resulted in compaction, equity, and parity issues within the executive management classifications. per California law, any changes to the executive management needs to be stated in a open council session. And so I'm going to read those changes. They need to be verbally said. We do a 5-step salary range. So in these positions that are affected by the change, I'm going to list step 1 and step 5. City manager, step 1, $20,116. Step 5, $24,451. These are monthly salaries. Assistant city manager, step 1, $15,324. Step 5, $18,627. Police chief, $15,809. Step 5, $19,215. Public utilities director, step 1, $15,324. Step 5, $18,626. Fire chief, step 1, $15,101. Step 5, $18,355. Director of Planning and Development Services, step 1, $14,373. Step 5, $17,471. General Services Director, $14,373 at step 1 and $17,471 at step 5. Finance Director, $14,373 at step 1 and $17,471 at step 5. No change to Community and Economic Development Director. All of the executive management team is also eligible for the benefits such as health insurance and vacation and holiday time that is listed in the executive management summary. Open to any questions, and we're asking for approval on the resolution and the new salary schedule.
Question for Shauna. Lynn?
Oh.
All right. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, I'll open it to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to comment here in chambers? I see none. On the web?
No.
Okay, so council, what's your pleasure?
I'll move that we approve the salary schedule resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So I hear 5 ayes and no noes. Thank you, Shauna. Next item, council items, consider approval of designation of voting delegates and alternates for the League of California City Annual Conference and Business Meeting on September 7th and 9th. And that's, presenting is our City Manager, John Holt.
Thank you, Mayor. The Cal City's annual conference is going to be September 7th through 9th. There's going to be the business meeting on that Friday. On an annual basis, we come before City Council and ask Council to designate a voting delegate and an alternate. So I'll be asking for that this evening. And a little bit different this year was going to be that there were no resolutions that were submitted by cities for the City Council to consider, so I reached out to the League to figure out exactly what are they going to be considering at the meeting on that Friday. They got back to me that there's a couple different things, one of which is going to be the 2 props, 26 and 27, that could be considered at day for the meeting. Prop 26, if approved, would legalize sports betting at American Indian gaming casinos and licensed racetracks in California. And if you recall, the City Council took an opposition position to this at the last meeting. The League took a neutral position on it. And then for Prop 27, if approved, would legalize online mobile sports betting. The League took a position to oppose it. They also indicated that they might have an amendment to bylaws that may be considered on that day, but that was about it. So this evening, I would like the City Council to consider providing, selecting a delegate and alternate, and seeing if they want to provide direction on Prop 26 and 27, and verify that everybody's going or not going.
Okay. As the mayor, I am planning to go, and I think we have, I don't see Rebecca here anymore, reservations already made.
Correct.
So,
I am not. I have a afternoon wedding on Friday of my nephew, and I have to be here.
You volunteer as the alternate?
You have a conflict here.
Yeah, he might have a conflict.
You know, he's gonna use that
To the last day.
We're gonna play that one out, aren't we?
So is that,
I'll make a motion that you're the delegate, voting delegate, and Juan is the alternate.
second? Any more comments or anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? On the web?
No.
Okay, we have a motion, second? All those in favor?
I didn't know if we should. How did we want to handle the Proposition 27 issue? I think we were a no on Proposition 26, and I don't know if we just wanted to focus on the delegate first and then have a conversation about Prop 27, or just not.
Because that's going to be just direction, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I guess that's probably smart.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have the vote.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, so it's 5-0. Okay, now to the questions of what do we support or not support or stay neutral? Well, we did 27, right?
26.
26, and that was in opposition.
That was opposed, and 27 was not considered.
Jose, can I speak to 27? Sure. We had discussed this in the Public Safety Committee. This would permit out-of-state corporations to bring online gambling to California. It was opposed by the committee, and just from you look at, I see some of the commercials where you have some of the non-gaming Indian tribes that are speaking in favor of this, and they talk about how this is going to help the homeless situation, which is those things really annoy me, because you're come up with this is going to solve this problem. How are we going to do that? I mean, it's like the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. It's smoke and mirrors. We do have a problem with compulsive gambling. This will make it easier. People will be able to bet on whatever they want from their home. I just see that as I see that, I don't see any benefit to California or to the citizens of Clovis by supporting Proposition 27.
It's interesting that Jerry Dyer is a supporter of it, Prop 27.
Question, Drew. The committee, one of the lone committees that are still really deciding propositions and or positions that are consistent with our city. How was the vote in the committee? And from last time you said the executive committee then opposed the actual safety committee's position?
I was only involved in the Public Safety Committee. If I recall, on Prop 26, there was only one member, and that was from Santa Barbara. In fact, I know I served with him on Santa Barbara PD, was in support of Prop 26, and I believe Prop 27 was a unanimous no, but I could be wrong, on this Public Safety Committee.
So,
I would just throw in a comment that the irony of it all is that the group in support of the campaign for Proposition 27 is called Californians for Solutions to Homelessness and Mental Health Support. And this is, of course, a proposition which would make gambling that much easier. And just at the beginning of the meeting, we heard from one of our citizens about how when she would have conversations with the homeless, sometimes it was a result of their gambling addiction, which created the homelessness. So probably the better approach is to not encourage this type of behavior, which would create the homelessness. And so, anyway, I just thought that was an irony worth pointing out, and I do believe that we should probably be opposed, at least I will be opposed to Proposition 27, but I'm not likely going to.
And the research I've done on the proposition is the homeless and the non-casino owning tribes don't get much of what the revenue generated. So I'm like Drew. I think it's smoke and mirrors kind of thing again, and I hope California voters will open their eyes and see what reality is, And, I've always liked the 500 Club here in Clovis because it's nostalgia, it's Americana, it's a card room, it's not this industrial bedding, and so I will never support an industrial bedding kind of proposition.
Provide enough direction.
Exactly. Unless you guys tell me to do otherwise. How's that? Okay, so we have direction on that one. So next item is city manager's comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any city manager comments, but one thing I do want to do is to clean up the record. One thing that I did notice that I missed this evening after the consent calendar was going to be that Councilmember Monatua was conflicted on item number 16. So if it's Scott, I'll be looking for you to confirm, but I think if we just have the motion maker amend the motion to exclude 16 and 18 and then re-vote 16 to allow an opportunity for Councilmember Monatua to recuse himself.
Okay.
Yeah,
you consider that, is that good?
That would be fine. I think it was
So,
Councilmember Ashbeck, yes.
So,
I will,
Member them, Ashford, go ahead.
so I'm going to amend the approval of the consent calendar to remove also item number 16. Is that the action?
Correct.
All right.
So, second. So we still have a second. So we'll vote again on, anyone in the public wishing to comment on this? Not here. Anyone on the web? So we'll vote on those, minus those two items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So they pass 5-0. Now another motion
For item 16.
for item 16.
I'll make a motion then to approve item 16 on the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Any comment from the public on item 16 on the consent calendar? On the web?
No.
Okay. Call the question. So all of those in favor? Aye. Aye. So and we have one abstention or recusal, right? So we have 4 ayes, no noes, and 1 recusal.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, so council items. Bob?
Well, I just want to compliment you, Mayor, on making the difficult decision at the time that you did, related to whether you were going to run again. It was, it's never easy, I'm sure, to make that type of a decision. And you put the citizens of the city of Clovis ahead of the, I think, the challenges associated with making that decision, and just said, you know what, I've got to communicate clearly that I'm not running so that we can have good candidates have a free opportunity to make the move to pull papers. And so, anyway, I just wanted to say that I appreciated you making that decision, and instead of doing kind of a midterm retirement at some point, or resignation, to fulfill your obligation for this term, and at the same time make sure that folks were aware that there was going to be another seat open, I think is to your credit. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Long? Nothing? Drew?
I sent the city manager a photograph. There's a gentleman in the area of Barstow and Royalty. I talked to him last week. He was complaining about people dumping debris in the street during non-neighborhood cleanup time. And so I usually explain to folks how they can use the Clovis app, and he did, and he sent me a text this morning and said they did it again, sent me this picture of a very large pile of debris. Apparently somebody's just pulling their pickup truck up and pushing it off. So not only do we have to clean it up, I think it's time for us to, maybe if we can get a camera or something to find out who the heck this is. It's pretty egregious. And it's not even, it's on Barstow. So it's not like it's neighborhood cleanup and somebody's adding to the pile like Marcus was talking about. This is just probably putting your truck in reverse, having the bed down and hitting the brakes. It's bad. That's all I have. Lynn?
I will echo what Bob said, but I am kind of mad, so that's really all. So anyway, that's all. I agree with what he said.
Okay, well.
And you're not going anywhere quite yet.
No. Well, first of all, I have to report out for my COG meeting. We had a COG meeting last Thursday, pretty uneventful, just a regular COG meeting. It didn't go till 1 o'clock, and we didn't have a pornographic presentation either, so it was good. And in the larger item, I made sure I called most of you before I made my public announcement. And it's been difficult to decide this, but, you know, in the back of my mind, I've had a plan for, at least since I was elected the last time, that I knew that I'd be the mayor during this election, and should I do it again, and I will always be in politics. I have always been in politics as an adult. I have never stopped. I have helped other politicians and other causes, other issues, and I'll continue to do that. And I don't foreclose the possibility that I will once again run for another office. But for right now, I want to concentrate on my on the last years of my law enforcement career and my family. I've also thought of even going back to school. I think I need a little bit more education, maybe a little. So so I got plans, and I'll still be vocal like I have always been most of my life. And so you might see me here, but over there, making sure Marcus and I start, keeping you guys in line. So I'll be right there sitting next to Mike once in a while. But it was time, and I thought it was only fair to do it early in the filing period. I actually probably lost a week because I probably should have done it a week before, because that's when the filing period actually started. But I think it's a great decision for me personally, for my family, and for the city. There comes a time when new blood is required, and we have some good candidates that are stepping up. And so I am confident that Clovis will choose good people to represent them like they have done in the recent past. One of the motivating forces for me was Operation Rezone, and what happened, how my city was embarrassed by that. And that was one of it was still a pretty big deal when I ran. It'd only been like 1 or 2 cycles since that fiasco. And I am blessed that from Harry Armstrong, Tom Stearns, Pat Wynn, Lynn, Nathan, Bob, Drew, and now Long, we've had a great team of guys and gals here on the dais making tough decisions. We overcame the recession, I think, better than most cities. I know we did wonderfully during this COVID pandemic, so that's a tribute to this legislative team, our staff, executives, and the rank and file. So I just hope that it continues, and if it doesn't, I'll be right there. So that concludes our meeting. We have some closed session items. We have 2 as printed on the agenda, and I don't believe there'll be any reporting now.
No, we're not asking for action tonight.
So we'll adjourn to the closed session at this time.